everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth and Story, and I come to you fresh out of the shower in my pajama shirt, Diet Coke. I don't think you can see that. Yes, I am not highly prepared for video making, but that's okay because I am going to do a little combo video. I'm going to do my top 10 tarot decks, and I'm also going to do a VR to Mindful Tarot. I'll put a link to her video below. I just saw Kasia. A lot of people have done it, but I also saw Kasia's, and I love her channel so much. And so I'm also going to link hers below because hers reminded me of it yesterday. I saw hers and I thought, oh, I need to do that one, right? Like that's what I need to do. So, oops, getting the last, I forgot that one. So I'm going to, that video, sorry I didn't even say what that was. It was the decks that bust you open. So, you know, those kind of decks that really like, which, you know, are pretty, I don't know if they're really, all of them aren't in my top. One of them's not maybe in my top 10. And you know me, I'm probably not going to stick exactly to the top 10. But, so definitely most of the decks are in my top 10. Now I'm going to have a couple extras just because I can. You know, so I'm going to start with my top 10 and then I'm going to talk about the decks that bust me open, or else I'll talk about them as I come to them. I'm not putting these in my top 10 because otherwise they would always be in my top 10 just for sentimental reasons. But in terms of using decks, they aren't in my top 10. So that's why I'm kind of putting them as an addition. I have to always mention the Lenormand Tarot because I haven't really done a lot of showing with this camera, so I know that it wants to focus on my face. This was my very first tarot deck, so I mean, you know, this is going to always be. Look at the. I mean, I love the swords in this deck. This is always going to be one that I have. This is always going to, you know, it's, you know, in a way, this is the first one that busted me open because I saw this in a shop and I was just like, oh, I wasn't interested in tarot because I'd only seen it a couple years before. I'd seen some Rider-Waite-Smith and the images didn't really appeal to me. It was still quite Christian based. It just wasn't where my path was because I didn't know a lot about it. And again, with what I'd seen. But when I saw this Lenormand Tarot, it busted me open and I had to have it. And I had to learn it, and I spent 9.5 years with only this deck. So it really is the basis of everything that I know about tarot. So, you know, that's always got to be there. So I'm kind of putting this one as well as the Shadowscapes in this own like sort of category because they were, you know, I used that one for 9.5 years, and then I saw the images of the Shadowscape Tarot. Here's the backing, which I still think is gorgeous. This is a fresh deck, actually. I gave Katie my deck because she likes that kind of lineage, passing things on. And then I was so lucky to be able to trade to get the old cardstock back. I still need to redo the edges. There's the full, actually this, no, it's not in order. But I saw these images and I was just, it just hit me at a very deep level. They were stunning. They're so beautiful and readable. And I spent the next 1.5 years working with only this deck. So these are the two decks that I have worked with on their own for the longest, where I just just worked on that deck. This was also the deck that got me through the first year after Michael passed. So it's very tied up in healing. It's very tied up. I did concentrated study because I knew I decided I was going to go professionally, and I wanted to kind of re-study my base because I had learned quite intuitively and not really with a lot of books, just with just the Llewellyn and a little basic guidebook. And I just wanted to be, really just make sure my foundation was strong, and did some intensive studying and note-taking, and just really intensive studying with this deck. So those two kind of are in their own separate category. They're in a way just kind of in the sacred category, because they were the two decks I really learned tarot with and spent the most time with, and introduced me to that kind of this beautiful world in a powerful way. So I'm not putting these in my top 10 because I want to do the top 10 that I have out and I use all the time. These I pretty much only use for myself, although I started a new reading where I am actually using the I love the Shadowscape, but it's become such a personal deck for me because of going through the process of healing with it. I don't often use it anymore because it's just kind of these are just kind of my decks, but I'm doing a reading in as the above and in the realm of the air and heaven. I just had to use that one. So yeah, so those two I'm not counting in my top 10, but they always have to have a mention. You know what I'm saying? Those are just my add-ons. Those would have to be at the beginning of any list, and so I have to say that. So then I'm going to get to my top 10 decks, and then I'll talk about the ones that crack me open, or else I'll just talk about them within as I talk about them. So I don't really have these in order of, okay, this is my top versus my bottom, a top 10. If I had to do my top, we'll do that at the end. We'll do that at the end. I'm just going to grab at the moment, okay? So top 10 decks for me are the Druidcraft Tarot. See, I just feel like this, I should just done this on my computer, but you don't get as good an image. So I love this deck. This is such a blunt and powerful and beautiful deck, and it reads so much. This is my one that I think reads the closest to Lenormand, because it's so clear and so blunt, and it's not harsh, but it's very blunt. It really does simply tell things as it is. And anytime I'm doing tarot about work, I tend to go to this one. It's gorgeous. The art's by Will Worthington. I think it is the most, if somebody's looking to really learn tarot, I've kind of narrowed it down probably, but wants the traditional things that you're, not Rider-Waite-Smiths, but at least traditional, you're going to see those traditional elements there. I would say Shadows, but don't want that Rider-Waite-Smith. I would say Shadowscape, Druidcraft, or even Tarot Muha. So I feel like the guidebook as well does an amazing job at connecting, seeing the connections between the major arcana. I think it does a beautiful job. Yes, there is a child sun. I have to live with that. But otherwise, it's a gorgeous, look at this Empress. It's a gorgeous deck, and it is definitely in my top 10. So I have to have that, show that one. I have to have in my top 10 the Tarot of the Hidden Realms. This is by Llewellyn. See, it wants to do my face. Here is the beautiful Chariot, which is renamed the Fairy Stallion. For me, the best, I always say the same thing. Look at the Eight of Swords. This deck to me is about your personal power. It is so strong, internally strong. It's that it takes you back to the seat of your power. I really do believe that this deck, I mean, there is something, I was hesitant to buy it because it's framed quite close up to people, but the artist here does an amazing job at looking out of the card, look at that moon, as well as body positions, beckoning, like here's the High Priestess. She's actually beckoning you to come and explore. I just think she does an amazing job at expressions, at postures. Look at this Three of Swords. It's just stunning. I wish that she would do another deck. I mean, she has the fairy one, like a 12 astrological signs, glow in the dark one, but like I would like another, like a full-on oracle deck. Look, it's one of my favorite strength cards because it's a wolf. So yeah, this to me is extreme. Look at this Page of Pentacles. Just, there's a feralness to this. There is a fayness to this. This to me is about fairy with A-E-R-I-E, not little tiny fairy. Like this to me reflects Brian Froud's fairies, as well as this is maybe more like the Tuatha De Danann, reflect my understanding of fayness the most. Look at her. I love that Hermit card. So I have to have Tarot of the Hidden Realms in my top 10. Going along, I guess, with those styles of deck, I have to have the Wildwood. This is my working deck. This is the deck when I'm doing anything ritual, when I'm setting intentions, when I'm doing sigils or anything like that. If I'm working with the Wheel of the Year, this is the deck. It uses animals and the quartz in a gorgeous way. This is a little more shamanistic pagan. Look at this Three of Stones. It is following the Wheel of the Year very closely. That's the whole point of it. In terms of, now I didn't keep the patterns. This is the remake of the Greenwood Tarot. The Greenwood actually ordered them differently in the majors. The Wildwood puts the numbering of the original majors, but it still follows that same pattern. I wouldn't take this. This is not a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. A lot of the meanings have been changed to be based on the Wheel of the Year and more pagan ideologies, as well as I think a little more numerologically sometimes, not always. And it's stunning and it's powerful, and I have to have that Wildwood Tarot in there. Then going from the more pagan-y, earthy, we have to have the Fountain Tarot, of course. This is a stunning deck. This to me is the modern rendition of the Rider-Waite-Smith system. I feel like this should be a deck that stays with us for a very long time. I feel like this is a deck that we should be returning to. It is my neutral ground. As I said in a live video, look at my favorite Hermit. This to me is the deck that I always use when emotions are high, when a situation is very emotionally charged, and we need to simply get at the root of the matter without adding any other energy into it. It does have an energy. It's not that it's energyless, but it's a calming, let's do the work. Powerful. It has the power to do that in a way that will always have a place in my decks that I pull from. So that would be number 4. I would definitely have to have the oops, that was in its box, but the Wildwood Tarot A, another one of my favorite Hermit cards. This deck is one that I have a review on this. I had it, I sold it immediately. It was a little too close to home at the time with Michael and his type of sketching, and I knew he would love the deck. I just couldn't deal with it. And then Patrick sent it to me again this past fall, and I use it a lot. And I have had probably some of my most powerful readings as a professional reader with this in some really profound ways. So I really love how it steps completely away from having humans, and that is very freeing sometimes. I thought I had upside down. It's very freeing sometimes, and it's very needed, and it's very healing, and I've just had some really powerful experiences with this deck. So it definitely has to be in my top 10. I love reading with the Animal Spirits Oracle. the Wild Unknown one, and the Messenger cards. Those three together are a really powerful combination. So that's number 5. Of course, I have to have the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. This one, this would also be kind of a bust me open one, but in a different way. It just makes me laugh. It's so nurturing. It really is. I actually use this for client readings. It's so nurturing, and it has such a wonderful sense of humor, as well as being extremely powerful. I just feel like it's an all-around amazing deck to... This one just makes me laugh. I just love it. It brings out my inner child. It brings out my inner person who loves monsters and the messages that because monster theory is really important to me. The idea of what are those? Why do we create? We take the things that we're most afraid of in different time periods and different cultures, and we take all those things about ourselves that we fear the most, and we put them outside of ourselves onto something else. And so it tells so much about us as a people, as a society. It speaks a lot to when we know what it is that we're so afraid of, that we give it form. That tells us a lot. And truthfully, I mean, monsters are mirrors. They're just dark mirrors. They're mirrors back at us of the things that we're most afraid of, or the things in ourselves that we know are there, but we just can't acknowledge are part of ourselves. So there's a very strong power in understanding the role that monsters play. And so this deck just is a culmination of all that I love and all that I am drawn to in the idea of monsters. So yeah, I have to have the Bohemian Gothic because it's gorgeous. And I wish I could find my little BFF. These are all fluffed about, and I don't like my decks like that. I must have accidentally shuffled it. If you have this deck, look at the 6 of Cups. It's like a creepy Heidi's. Pay close attention to the backgrounds. The figures in the backgrounds are often actually the primary figures, in my opinion, and also pay attention to where shafts of light are. I think that those are very, very important in this deck. I just wanted to show my little BFF. He showed up when I did the walkthrough, and I thought he was, I love this. I thought he was the only thing in the deck that I thought was actually creepy. One of my favorite strength cards. But we have since become best friends, and I just love it when he shows up. But of course, he isn't going to... I mean, it's got Frankenstein. How can I not love a deck that has Frankenstein? I was writing my thesis on Frankenstein. The Devil, one of the most powerful Devil cards in any deck that I have. But apparently my BFF is not... Oh, here he is. Look at him. He's a 7 of Wands. He's defending himself. He has found a high, tight window in a church tower, and he's defending himself. But he actually, again, quite a sense of humor, this deck. But also, that sense of humor and that sense of nurturing does not lessen the power of it. I use this a lot in moon times. Sorry, I'm like itchy-nosed. So that's number 6. Number 7 would, and again, these are not really in order. This is the Tarot of Delphi. This was sent to me by Miss Boho as well as Bohemian Gothic. I just love this deck. Because, again, the other thing that would be most powerful for me besides monsters is mythology. And what's amazing about this particular deck, and I've said this a million times, I mean, look at this. The 5 of Swords, she chopped off his head. She's chopped the guy's head off because he killed her whole family and forced her to marry him. But this is an art deck that has taken previous artwork and put it into the deck. This is out of print, although there's talk of another printing. But what the artist has, or the curator, as she called herself, has done so powerfully is that it's not just the images that relate to the meanings of the cards, but it is the story and the mythology behind the paintings that also speak to the actual card. So this was not just slapping, oh, that looks like a good one, I'll slap that on there. No, this was a lot of work to put together, and it reads beautifully, and it is a work of art. She put a lot of work into this, and it's an amazing deck. So that has to be in my top 10. Then, of course, we have to have the Mary L. Tarot. Or I have to. You don't have to, but I do. Absolutely stunning. I am going to get a second one. As a backup, which says something. I actually have a backup of the Wild Unknown coming. I just did a trade for a second edition, which is, I like the first edition the best. I've seen all the changes in the 6 or 7 cards. I like the backing of the first edition, but it is my least favorite deck to shuffle. And I use it a lot, but I literally think, oh, I'm going to have to shuffle it. I'm not a huge fan of thick cardstock. So I wanted the second, somebody offered to trade me for the second edition, and I said yes, because that's slightly thinner. It's the same as the Animal Spirits, and it just makes a world of difference in terms of shuffling. But yeah, back to the Mary L. This is just very deep, very intuitive. The guidebook is, I think, amazing. Is it a little all over the place? Yes, but things pop out of it that just hits me. So this is, oh, look at that one. It's in my top 10. This is one of my favorite 5 of Earths or Pentacles. How gorgeous is that? And I know my phone's gone off a few times, but I don't want to get up and get it. It has my favorite death card. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I know this will be very long. Oh, love this Magician. I love this 4 of Wands. I love a lot of these. This is the only card I don't like. I've come to terms with it. It's the Hierophant. I come to terms with it. I can read with it, but I still cringe when it comes up. I love this Hermit. I love the water. You don't get that a lot with Hermit energy. That's the only card, though. I love, 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 love this 9 of air, swords, air. Yeah, it's a stunning deck, but this is my all-time. I mean, look at that. Absolutely amazing. So, yeah, this is also one that's cracked me open. It's amazing, and I know my air conditioning is also going on and off as well, so this is not the best thought out planned video, but there we go. So definitely Mary L. Then I would have to definitely say the Tarot, Marseille, the Marseille Tarot. This is an Il Menegalo deck, the Tarocchi de Marsiglia that Miss Otzi sent to me. But just in general, the Tarot, Marseille, reading with the Marseille deck there was a freedom that came about from going to a strictly pip deck that it was also one of those crack me open ones in a way. I know it sounds weird, but it definitely was, because there was such a freedom. Because I do have some things, because I learned, I think, playing cards and things of that nature before going to tarot. I really believe that numerology is a cornerstone of tarot. I think that everyone who reads tarot should have a pretty good grasp of the first, 1 through 9 and have an understanding, or 10, you've got the 10 with completion. So those 10 numbers, I think that anybody reading tarot should have a really good grasp on them, because I think it is that with the elements, I think are some, cornerstones of reading tarot. And so I didn't always agree with how the numerology and the elements were put together. And so when the Wildwood Tarot was the first that I really enjoyed, because that's a fairly pippish deck, although there's 1 or 2 of those that give me trouble. But going to a straight pip deck, has definitely, there was a freedom. It takes me back to kind of that cartomancy and being able to just really go with my gut and not having an image. As much as I love them, clearly I have lots of them, it doesn't lock me into the image that's on the minor arcana. So definitely have to add that in my top 10. And if you're going to get one, I mean, get a Il Menegala reproduction. They're just so stunning, and the boxes are stunning, and it feels like you're having a deck from the olden times, right? And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, number 10. And possibly my all-time favorite, although that would be really hard for me to call, is my Margaret Peterson Tarot. This deck is absolutely amazing. It's gorgeous, but it's also the artist's meaning in the guidebooks really align with mine in terms of numerologically, although I haven't gone through it yet and studied it one by one. I just really dove into it. I use this a lot. I use it for clients. I use it for myself. It's stunning. I feel like you are experiencing somebody's, some decks are absolutely beautiful, but they are artistic, an artist's, somebody else is wanting to do the deck, and so they commission an artist to try to show their vision, which are the beautiful. Probably many of those decks, or many of the decks that I have, may be like that. But there are sometimes you hit a deck in which it is the artist's vision. And in case of Margaret Peterson deck, it was a long process. Same thing with the Marielle, where it was the artist taking a journey, a very deep journey, a long journey that encompassed their life and changes in their life and the ups and downs in their lives, and really asking to be filled and asking to be seen, seeing what each particular card means and sinking into them. And that's what, to me, this deck is amazing, because you feel that complete connection with the artist and the card, and that complete expression of that particular card. Excuse me. And it's just extremely powerful. So yeah, so that would definitely be number 10. Now I have to put 11 on here, although it's just questionable because I haven't used it enough. It's the one that makes me the most surprised, and this is going to go in my Crack Me Open one too. This is the Tarot of the She. This is one that I, again, wasn't drawn to the art so much, although once I read how this was actually what I guess it would be termed almost like a channel deck, in which she just allowed the image to come. She did it straight up. She didn't do any pre-thinking, any pre-planning, any pre-sketching. She just slammed the ink on the paper, and it was just, what is the essence of that card from the perspective of these beings, from the she? Who are they? And so there is a rawness to the art, as well as to the expression, that is really powerful. I didn't know if I was going to resonate with this deck, but I have had some really amazing readings. I haven't used it all that long. I love the guidebook as well. Just trying to get some. So I'm going to have to I love this. You know, I can't boot out something that was in my deck. I mean, technically this could be my 10, and my Marseille could be sort of a separate category. I guess you could look at it that way. Again, this is probably one of the ones I like the least. But then some are just absolutely stunning. So this one for me isn't so much about the artwork as it is about just the power. There's a power to this deck that is undeniable, I think. And I love the changes in the suits, and the reason that she did that, and the trajectory of creation that it forms. that I think is also extremely powerful. So this deck, just as a whole, is, I think, very powerful. So I guess I would have to, yeah, I'll put this in my top 10, and then have Marseille just being its own self, because it's just amazing. That's how I'll manage that. Okay, so there's my top 10s. Now, if I had to pick a favorite, because somebody's going to ask me that, you all always want to ask, I know my slipping sliding bun is probably bothering you as much as it's bothering me. If I had to pick one, not because all the other ones are going to burn, or there's going to be an earthquake or anything of that nature, but just if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably, hair's driving me crazy. I usually always have clips around, but I couldn't find a clip, so it's like hanging on there by a ponytail holder. I know, people are like, don't talk about your hair. It bugs me so. When you can see it on the camera and it's sliding around, it's really hard for it to not bug you. Plus, I'm just trying, it's avoidance tactics, people. It's avoiding, I don't have to say what my favorite is. It would definitely be the Margaret Peterson, the Wildwood. I just love them all. That's why they're in my top 10. But if I had to pick one as my favorite, it's probably, the closest to my soul is probably the Margaret Peterson. I do feel like that's kind of an expression of my soul. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. And, but I was trying to see if I could find the one that seems to show up this one shows up all of the time. This is about balancing your energy. Is you're pulling in from the earth, from the feet, and you're pushing it out with your hands. And is that in balance? Are you taking in as much as you're giving out? This one shows up for not just myself, but clients, and it just shows up a lot. The feather suit, or the air suit in this deck, is just subtle and beautiful. Yeah, I adore this deck. So in terms of my soul, that's probably closest one to expression of my soul. So which I guess leads us to the decks that have Bust You Open. I would definitely... That's the hard thing, is that because all of these did in some way or another. The Llewellyn Tarot busted me open in a sense, because it was my first experience with tarot. It just, all of a sudden, it broke me into this world, and this, this strong hitting in the chest of all of these archetypes and all of these images and these situations and these representations of these archetypes, and it was just such a powerful hit for me. So I would in some ways have to put, which is right over here, I would some ways have to put the Llewellyn Tarot in a deck that busted me open. Now, it doesn't have the same power hit as what I think the question intends it to be, but it was because it was my first experience with really experiencing the cards, not so much the specific images or the specific deck, but having that exposure to tarot and to the archetypes of tarot that are going to hit me, and start to something I'm going to work with for so long. That cracked me open to this beautiful system of tarot. So that, I think, would have to be that initial crack me open. But when I think about power decks, I definitely would have to include the Marielle. I knew I had this on my wish list for like a year. I guess I should try to pick ones like this one. This has been on my wish list for a while. I knew that it was going to be really powerful. I knew that I felt like it was going to be difficult to work with just because of that power. It really wasn't as much as I thought it was. I was able to get right into working with this deck. Because it's so expressive, and the colors and the richness. There is a depth here, and I really do believe with probably the 3 decks that I think about really as like cracking open, bust you open kind of decks. I think in my experience, or the ones I guess that I'm going to pick in terms of tarot, it is because of that depth of the artist who, it wasn't, I think, making somebody else's vision, but was creating their own vision, taking their own journey and placing their journey on the card, in the paint. It's all it's all there, like their journey with understanding and learning and expressing tarot is there in the paint. And I think that's what has that crack it open, at least for me. I think that's where that resonance, that's super deep, that really cracks you open, comes from. So I would definitely, in the crack it open, have to say the Marielle. That one, I don't think, but I think she is the artist that did this. This reflects the artist's deep love of the Welsh mythology, for sure, and how that can work within tarot. But this was more, not so much the deck, but that it was the first deck, and so it has that impact, or had that impact. As I talked about with the Margaret Peterson, because it's right here, this one, it really is. I have a couple songs. There's a song by Joni Madison. Is it Madden? Joni Madden. She plays the Irish whistle. And I had an experience with one of her particular songs. I'll put a link to it in the description box below. Where the first time I heard it, and this is 20-some years ago. Yeah, because my kids were babies. I remember the first time I heard it, I felt like I heard my soul. Like, it's like if my soul could sing, that's what it would sound like. That's exactly, I remember thinking it because I actually journaled about it. And that's what I feel about the Margaret Peterson. I feel like it is like a visual representation of my soul. It's not. It's Margaret Peterson's. But it just... it hits me at a soul level, very similar to the Marielle, but it's like at a different spectrum. The Marielle is like power hitting, like it's almost overwhelming power, where this is like a deep, almost water, but there's a warmth, warm water, cocooning, floating in the warm ocean. I don't know. I haven't come up with really good expressions for it, but it is, I feel like it just resonates with me at such a deep level that, yeah, I adore it. So that one definitely was a crack me open one, because it was that recognition. It was like, hello there. How do my pieces of my soul get onto little pieces of paper? That kind of feeling. I would also have to put the Tarot of the She in there, because it was one of those surprising ones. Wasn't one I was really excited to get. Again, artistically, it doesn't resonate with me when I would just see the images on the screen. That's what I'm going to say with the Tarot of the She. Looking at the images on the screen, it was kind of like, okay, it didn't do anything for me. Hearing what people said about it was what was intriguing, because so many people were saying how powerful it was, the experiences they had with it. But just seeing the images on the screen, it really didn't. I'm trying to pull other ones than what I pulled before. It really didn't, the images themselves didn't speak to me that much, or it didn't make me say I have to have it. Some of them made me a little uncomfortable, which is usually a good indication that you probably need to work with it. But this is one of those decks that I think that you're not going to know if it's going to work with you until you have it in your hand. It's unfortunately, I just think it's one of those things, because of the way in which she created this, which again was a little bit more channeled. I think it's, I mean, some people will see it on the screen and know, they fall in love with the images. That was not me. It was what people said about it, and my experiences. I have used this a number of times I've not used this for clients. I've only used this for myself. I've had extremely powerful readings, especially when I've been using this a lot in conjunction with dreaming. And so I don't know if this is going to kind of morph into my dream deck. And my dreams are very powerful landscapes. So it probably needs this kind of a deck for that. But it definitely is one that cracked me open. I didn't expect it. I really thought it might end up being one I bought and just traded on, because, or somebody traded me this, but I wasn't no, somebody didn't trade me this. Miss Rory sent it to me, and she said she thought that this was supposed to be mine, and she was right. And I was gonna get it. I was in the process of, that was gonna be the next deck that I got, and she went up to me, and it came on the summer solstice. It was a full moon and summer solstice. So if that's not a powerful indication, I love this one. So yeah, this would definitely have to be a crack it open kind of a deck. So in terms of tarot, the other thing is, like, there's reasons why, well, for example, like the Wild Unknown, I love this deck. I use this deck a lot. Imagery wise, I resonate with them. I love the images, but it's not that, you know, some people, this is their soul deck, like Patrick, this is his soul deck. I don't have that feeling with the Wild Unknown. However, I've had some of my most powerful experiences with clients with the Wild Unknown. All my decks are out of whack in terms of flip-flops. I need to go through and straighten them, put them all upright. So I have had really powerful experiences with it, but I wouldn't call it a deck that cracked me open. I had the biggest pushback to it because of that artistic connection with Michael, but I still wouldn't put it in the crack me open. I think it's served to crack other people open in my readings, so in that way it's quite powerful. The Bohemian Gothic is probably one of my favorite walkthroughs. The Bohemian Gothic and the Fountain Tarot. The Fountain Tarot cracked me open at emotional level. It was very an emotional deck. But the Bohemian Gothic cracked me open with joy. I mean, does that count? Like, it's probably my favorite walkthrough of first impressions because it just hit my inner child. It felt like a big hug from literature that I loved. It hit my funny bone. It hit a power bone. So there's a way in which the Bohemian Gothic Tarot cracked me open because I literally can see the deck sitting over there and it makes me smile. So it cracks me open with inner child joy, I suppose. So, you know, all my decks in some way or another, but I would say the three that, well, the four if you count the Llewellyn, that could have been any tarot that first resonated with me. It was that initial hit of, whoa, this is, you know, this is tarot, yeah, we are going to have a long journey together. But the three actual decks, I guess, and especially the two, I would say that really, you know, the Marielle and the Margaret Peterson, I think are on opposite spectrums of the same power level, but on a different wavelength. I don't know how to describe that. So those definitely are probably the main two that I have to say at a kind of a visceral level. The Heindel Tarot is also, I should probably have discussed the Heindel Tarot in terms of one of those that just, I've had digging into it. I think my mistake with the Heindel Tarot, to be honest, was getting the guidebooks. I started reading it because I didn't have the full-on guidebooks. I started reading it intuitively, and I got on much better with it. When I started digging into the guidebooks, there's some things that didn't quite work for me. I'll eventually do a video on it, but just in terms, that was another one, although that was, I think, pre-existing artwork, but that was pretty powerful walkthrough for me, or experience of first experiencing a deck. But in terms of actual usage, I would have to say the Marielle and the Margaret Peterson, two different, same power, two different wavelengths, and then the Tarot of the She, just in terms of uncomfortability, a little bit confrontational, and again, just dream tapping. I mean, just tapping into dreams in a way that's pretty powerful. So I don't know if that was really answering the question, but you know, all of the decks that are in my top 10 in some way or another had that hit, or else they wouldn't be in my top 10. Isabel, it's okay. It's all right. She's just all worked up now. So I'm going to stop because I'm going to just start babbling. So that was my top 10 and the decks that kind of, you know, cracked me open. And this definitely was unexpected. I wasn't sure. I had very ambivalent feelings about this. So yeah. So there we go. I'm going to stop rambling. I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful day.